Hello, on this video, I'm going to talk about C# switch statement, both the old and the new way to do that. So first, let's take a look on the old way to do a switch statement. So switch statement is a way for you to select which part of your code gets executed. So it's a flow control structure. So the basic structure of the old switch is something like this. So the switch, and then what you switch on, and then inside the body you have the cases. So the case and the value, whatever value you want. Then here you write your code, and then finally you break that block of code, and then you continue to write more blocks of code inside your switch statement. And then the default means, just in case, if none of these things match what you're switching on, then it goes to default. So the default is the catch-all part of your code. So the switch is a great structure because it does not need to go sequentially to find what you're looking for. So let's say if this is the part of the code that you're looking for whenever you're evaluating these statements, then it doesn't need to evaluate the first, the second one. It goes straight to the third one. So it does not do this sequentially like an if-else statement does. So because of that, the switch is extremely fast. No matter how many cases you have here, it's going to be extremely fast. So let's write some real code here and then run this program. So let's say you have an integer here, and then it's the month number. I'm going to give you a month number of 3 because 3 would be equivalent to March. You want to switch on the month number. And then the case, if the case is 3, for example, then right here in the code, you want to put something like March. And then if the month is 4, you want to put something like April. And then here you'd put something 5 May. So in this case, obviously you're missing January and February. You're also missing the rest of the month. But let's see how the code runs as is. Let me put the default here and say not found. So I'm going to run this program now, and then I get March. Well, I get March because it found what I'm looking for. What if I put 2 here? 2 be February, and I don't have the February coded right here, so it should be the not found option. So not found. So this is a very, very, very fast way for you to choose which part of the code you want to execute. All right, so let's look at a little bit more advanced example on the old way to do switch. So instead of doing this here, I'm going to create a variable called boolean is students. I'm going to set it to true. And then integer age, I'm going to set it to 25. And now I'm going to switch on age. And here on the case, instead of putting only the age, I'm going to put a condition. So the first condition I'm going to put it is if the condition is bigger than 65. So in other words, if age is bigger than 65, then I'm going to print here, let's say a 20% discount. And for this programming here, by the way, I'm assuming that this is a movie theater, and the movie theater is trying to give discount to the people coming to the movies based on students and based on age. So if the person is older than 65, we're going to give them a 20% discount regardless if they're students or not. All right, so for the second case, if they are over 18, in other words, they're adults, we're gonna give them a discount if they're students. So I'm gonna put it here, bigger than 18 when is students. So if this is true and this is true, then we're gonna give them a 10% discount. All right, our next case is gonna be when the person is over 18, but the person is not a student. Not is a student. So in this case, the person is gonna get 0 discount. And then finally for everybody else, so this should be the kids under 18 years old, we're gonna give them a 15% discount. So this got a little bit more complex because now we're switching in over one variable, but we're making decision based on 2 variables. So let's run this code now. So the age is 25 and the person is a student. So it should fall in this category here of 10%. So if I run this program, it should give me 10%. All right, got it. And if the person decides not to be a student, should give them 0 discount because it falls on the other category. All right, so the next is, can we make this a little simpler? Yes, we can. Maybe we can remove this thing right here because it will match this here if the student is true. And if it's not true, then it must be false. And if it's false, then it doesn't matter if we check here if it's false or not. It will always fall here. So if I run this program again, I get 0 discount even though I remove a little bit of code. All right, so can I improve even more? Maybe we can rearrange a little bit of this, but this is pretty good already. Now, let's move to the new way of doing switch. So this here is good, but it's not very easy to read, in my opinion. The modern way is a lot simpler, a lot easier. So let's move to the modern way to do a switch. So I want to start with a very simple switch for now. So I'm going to go back to the month of the year. So int month number equals 3 again for March. And then here is how the modern way to do switch work. So first I need to declare a string or any variable. So this is going to be string month, and then it's going to be equal the month number switch. And then I'm going to create a block of code. And here inside of the block code, it comes with the following format: the condition, a equals and more than sign. This is what's going to be assigned the value. And then here comes the value that comes from that condition. And then comma, and then repeat this a couple of times, however many times you want. And then finally, the default will be default. And this here is a underscore. So the underscore is the default. So it comes in this format. So now let's write the code that does the month switch. All right, so the condition is when it's 1, then the value is going to be January. And when it's 2, it's going to be February. And then when it's 3, it's going to be March. And everything else is going to be error for now. Obviously, they still need February, April, May, June, July, or December, right? So you need to rest the month, but let's pretend we only have this amount of months here. So this is the basic structure, and I'm gonna put a tab right here just to separate more, even though the right format would be less space here. But I wanna separate this just for learning purpose, just to show you how this work here, because this is gonna get messy pretty soon. So I'm gonna run this code and it should show me March, and it does not show me March because I am not printing anything. So let me print something here then. Now let me print the month. Now it should get me the month of March. Right, it is. It print March. So good. And if I change this, you print whatever I want to print. If I change it to 6 or to 5, well, 5 is not there yet. Therefore, it will show me error. All right, so this is how you create a more modern switch. But now let's make this a little bit more complex. Let's go back to the example that we had for the movie theater, giving discount to students and to people based on age and also the student status. So I'm gonna create the integer age again, and the age this time is gonna be 30. Then the boolean is students equals to false. And now we're gonna get the discount. So the string is gonna be discount this time, and then we're gonna switch this on age. So now it's age. And the first condition here is if the age is, let's say, smaller than 18, then the discount is going to be 50% discount. If the age is bigger than 18, I'm gonna give them 0 discounts. And finally, if the age is bigger than 65, I'm gonna give them a 25% discount. And then finally, I'm gonna print here the discounts. Now, if I try to run this way here, it's gonna give me a error because it will never get to 65 because bigger than 18 is everything 65. So I'm gonna delete, so I'm just gonna comment this for now, just so we can run this program as is. So now I get 0 discount because the person is over 30. Now let's put a 65 here, and now let's include the students now. So if the person is under 18, I don't care if they're student or not, they get 50% discount. Now if the person is over 18 and under 65, when is a student, then we're gonna give them a 10% discount. And then on the next line, if the person is between 18 and 65, when not a student, we're gonna give them 0 discounts. And then everybody else would fall into the bigger than 65 years old category, so we're gonna give them 25%. All right, so let's see if that works out. So I'm gonna leave as no student and age of 30. So if no student, age of 30, and by the way, let me separate this so it's not confusing. All right, so if this condition matches, then the discount is going to be 50%. If this condition matches, then the discount is going to be this value. And if this condition matches, then this value is going to be this value here, and so on. And if none of those conditions match, it's going to be this value right here. So now 30 years old and not a student should fall into the 0 discount category. And you get 0 discounts. And if the person decides to be a student, then now they get 10% discounts. And if the person decides to be 300 years old, it should fall into the 25% discount. and this value here, it looks like it's useless for now. So now let's try to improve on this. One of the things you should always do is take a look on your switch statement and see if it can be improved after you finish coding that. So the first thing I see is it will never reach the default value, and I also have a couple of redundancies here. So let's reorganize this thing so there's no redundancy. So I'm gonna move this to the top with the spaces. And then after that, I wanna see who are under 18, which is good right here. Then I wanna see who are bigger than 18 and are students, which is this thing here. So this looks good. And then after that, the only option is if the person is getting this 0 discount. So if you only got these 3 options, then there is no more odd option but the 0 discount. So doing this comparison here becomes irrelevant. So what you can do here instead is just put the default, and then this can be deleted. So this is a very, very, very simple way, very effective way to do it without any redundancy and improved as much as you can. Now, if I run this now, I'm gonna get the same results, but with a much short code. Now, I put a bunch of spaces right here just so it's not confusing and just separated between the condition and then the value that it gets. So now I'm gonna select here, I'm gonna press Ctrl on my keyboard and then the letter K followed by the letter F. So when I do Ctrl K and followed by the letter F, it will format the code for me and we will put the code in the way it's supposed to be. I'm gonna undo here, then I'm gonna go to Edit, then Advanced, then I'm gonna go to Code Formatting, Format Selection. There it is. So Format Selection, Ctrl K, Ctrl F will format the selection. So this is the right coding standards for C#. I just put extra spaces to make it clear and for learning purpose. So if I run this code, it will work just as fine. All right, so which one should you use, the old style or the new style? Well, in my opinion, you should definitely use the new style. The new style for me seems a lot simpler and has more options for you. So definitely use the new style. However, this new style was released, if I remember, back in 2020, I think. So not too long ago. And therefore, I'm pretty sure that most of the code running on computers will have the old style. Because of that, you need to learn the old style as well. But if you're going to create codes, create on a new style. All right, so that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.